Good Monday morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. Today we will start with Nvidia that was rejected here Thursday, the 17th of October at its all-time highs at 140.76. It actually spiked a little bit above, as you can see, 140.89. So it really needs to close above that level for further upside potential. If it does close below 128.74, well, then we can see a correction down to around the 120 level, key support around 113.25. If we look at what's actually going on in the Far East this morning, before we look at the US indices, we can see that, well, we did have this bearish engulfing here some time ago, but it didn't take out this top. So we actually had a bearish engulfing, but it was also a doji evening formation that was in the making, a massive sell-off, and it bounced from the support here at 19,924. It didn't really get all the way down before it has bounced back above this gap area here. There is still positive sentiment. If RSI moves back above 60 threshold and closes above that level, then I think we will see it push towards 21,600 around that level where we have a little bit of resistance. A close above 21,610, then there is further upside potential. But if it takes out this 19,924, well, then a bearish trend. The S&P 500 Friday closed at its highest close almost, I think. Yes, it did ever. It is a little bit stressed, but there is there's a little bit minor divergence here, so we can actually remove this one and say there is a little bit of divergence here. You can see this value there is a little bit lower than this one, but we actually had this higher close there than this one, so there is a little bit of divergence on the RSI, so indicating an exhaustion of the trend. However, it could continue a little bit higher towards 5,900, but if it starts moving back below this lower rising trend line here, then maybe we could be in for a correction down to around 5,700. The Nasdaq 100 index, well, it's still above the 20,041. That is key. As long as it stays above that and it doesn't close below, well, then we could push towards 20,675, the previous all-time high around that level. It's a little bit higher. Okay, let me just adjust that. There we are, 20,960, 690, sorry. It is a little bit stressed here, but there's no divergence on the RSI, so we could see a push towards that. But it is, and we are entering October months where it is, first of all, it is the earnings season, so that can bring some volatility into the market. EURGBP started, it did continue its bounce, just closed just around 49.86, 87 Friday, where we have a minor resistance, but I think it will push higher here. And if we're looking at the pre-market, here's the future / the CFD, it is more or less unchanged. So, but I think we could move a little bit higher, but it really has some strong upper resistance in the area around 5,077, around there. And this bearish engulfing needs to be cancelled, meaning it needs to close above that for really further upside potential. I closed below 49.07, we could see a little bit of a sell-off down to 48.54, but we can also see the 55 coming up there, the 200 moving average come up there, and 100 turning around. So the underlying trend is bullish and the sentiment is also positive. We should push higher. DAX new all-time high closed Fridays. I think we will push higher. There is still some divergence, but if RSI closes above 69.32, and it wouldn't take much, a higher close today, Monday, then I think it would be cancelled, and that will give a further upside potential to maybe even 20,000. At least they will look for it. Pre-market, it is fairly unchanged. The AX Amsterdam, well, 892. Support did hold, and I think we could see a push towards 908. If it does close above 909, 910, and above the 100 moving average here, then there's still upside potential to 927, but it is a bit depressed due to at least primarily ASML that is really under under fire or under pressure, I would say. If we just very quick look at it on the how it looks, well, it actually bounced off the support here around 635, touched the resistance at 668. 70, a close above. Well, then we could see a little bit correction towards 750. I don't think we'll go all the way up there. It is depressed, and if it closes back below 635, then expect further selling pressure. The CAC index, well, it still stays above 74.64, which is key support, and there's still potential up to 77.25, maybe even higher. RSI in a positive sentiment. If the RSI moves back above 60 threshold, expect a push towards 77.25 and higher. The Swiss market in a bullish trend, confirmed with a positive RSI above 60 threshold. I think we'll see the previous peak here being tested fairly shortly, and if it closes the you see there's a resistance here at 12,348, and then it close above that, then it closed the gap, and I think we'll push higher. If it does close below 12,119, then we are back in negative territory. Euro dollar, well, it is bouncing a little bit. It could still have a little bit downside potential towards 108. It bounces just above a 108 level, 108.10, 11-ish. Still in a bearish trend, struggling to get back above the 200 moving average. RSI still negative in sentiment, no divergence, indicating we could see a last sell-off down to, down below 108, 107, 77, 80, around that level. But I think we will see maybe a little bit of bounce. It is not impossible. We could bounce up to the 109, 40, 50 level, but it will be a struggle. We can see 55 turning around here. Also 100, we're kind of putting a lid on it. So it's really wait and see at the moment, I would say. If it takes out the lows here from last week, well, then we are challenging this support there. If we start moving back above the 200 moving average and towards the 109, then we could see a spike up to 109, 40, 50, maybe even 109.65. Euro sterling spiked Friday below the 83, as we can see here. If we get a positive day today, well, maybe then we can see a correction up towards 84 again. But if it breaks back below 83 once again, then further downside potential to 82. Cable, sterling dollar, well, bouncing a little bit above the 100 moving average that's coming up there, and also have the cloud support, and just above minor support here at 129.37. If it breaks back above 131, then I think we'll see a push up towards 132.58, which is the 61.8 of this downtrend here. And I actually think we could see that picture playing out, or this scenario playing out. We have the 55 still moving up, the 100 moving up, and slightly also the 200. But those, this will give support, and one will drag on it. If it takes out the lows from last week, well, then we could see a dip down to around 129. Dollar yen is forming what seems like, well, someone will call it a rising wedge, but wedges are 3 weeks time period or longer. So this is a kind of a pennant, rising pennant, so to speak. But it has this wedge-like formation. If we're digging into a 4-hour chart, it's maybe a little bit more visible. But it's breaking this very short-term rising trend line, at least here, and back below 149.40. And we could see a sell-off down to maybe 147.20, which is a key support. And then I think we'll see a bit of a bounce. But keep an eye on what's happening today, if we close below 149.40 or not. If we close back above it, then we could see it bouncing up towards the just below the 151. There's some overhead resistance. We can see the 100 moving average coming down there, putting a lid on it. RSI is still positive, but it is not very convincing, and I think we could see a little bit of a dip here the next couple of days. Euro yen, well, also weak here from the get-go this morning. 164 is still key resistance, and 161 key support. I think we will be range bound in this area here. We have the 55 giving some support, but then we have the 100 and 200 also giving some resistance. So we could be boxed in here in this range for quite some time. The Aussie yen, well, forming what appears to be a very short-term triangle-like pattern. Needs to break out. We can see the 100 moving average is kind of giving adding to the resistance up here, and the 55 coming up here. I think we will see a test of at least the lower rising trend line if it breaks below, and if it takes out 99.40. And we could just add a little just to give you an idea. If it takes out that level there, 99.40, well then I always subtract a little bit just to give a little bit of slack. If it breaks back, then I think we could see it looking at 98. Otherwise, a bullish breakout, well then there's potential up to 101 at 70-80 level. Sterling yen. Key strong resistance 196 got rejected here Friday. I think we'll see a little bit of a setback, so we could be caught in this range here between 193 195 for the next couple of days. But if it does break above 196, well, there's room up to 199, maybe even 200. But I think we'll see a little bit of weakness here the coming days. The Aussie dollar bouncing off 66.60, just above 66.50 here, and the key strong support back, keeping itself above the cloud here, getting back around the 55 moving average, kind of dragging it higher. We are back above 100 moving average. That is slightly rising. I think we could see a challenge of a 67.5, maybe even 67.60. If we move above that, well, then there's suddenly potential higher. RSI still negative sentiment. So if we see Aussie dollar sliding back, it could have a pressure down to around 66.40, 66.20. Dollar Canada. Oh, sorry, didn't update there. Dollar Canada. Well, dollar Canada, I actually expected a little bit of a bigger correction, but now it seems to picking up again. But there was correction potential down to around 137, maybe even down to the 136.78. If it takes out the lows there from last week at 137.47, 45, then I think we'll see a sell-off down to that around that level. However, if it takes out the peak here, and for now it seems to be challenging, RSI is a positive sentiment. There's no divergence, indicating we're likely to see higher levels regardless of a correction, minor correction or not. So keep on these levels. There's potential then towards 139 if it takes out at the 138.40. Sterling Canada is a little bit frustrating at the moment. I have removed this rising trend line we have here because now it's still getting obsolete. But we are in this very volatile environment, and to be honest, sometimes it's not easy to see a clear pattern or a clear direction. I mean, we saw a lower high here, but then we still have a higher high, so it's really frustrating. So I would say that if it takes out the lows there from last week at 178.30, then we'll see a test of the key support at 176.40, 76.80. Sorry. If it starts moving higher, if it continues moving higher, bouncing here, well, then there's still potential higher. And if we're looking at weekly chart, we can see that is still trading in this rising channel or wedge-like pattern. On the on EURUSD here. Sorry about that. There was a little hiccup there. EURUSD still trading in this triangle-like pattern, dipping below the lower rising trend line a couple of times. It really needs to take out 93.30 for really tricking a sell-off down to 92.5, maybe lower, or breaking above the upper falling trend line with a potential up to 95 at least, maybe higher. So keep on those levels there, or this triangle pattern. Dollar Swiss, well, it reached the 786 retracement here at 86.69. Being rejected at first take. I think we could see a little bit of a setback here at the next couple of days. And what you can actually do, you can do it yourself. So okay, from here and up to there, well, we could maybe see a little bit of a setback, maybe down to 86, 85, 67. It's not a given. If it takes out 86.70, then I think we'll see a push towards 87.30, maybe even 87.50. And finally, the dollar index, well, it is ripe for a little bit of a correction, but as you can see here, there's no divergence on the RSI, still in a positive sentiment. I think we will actually see it pushing higher towards 103.83 and maybe up to around 104, 104 and a quarter. So really in a strong mood there. And if we add Fibonacci just, and I do this, I don't prepare at all, just to show you what we can see. There is a correction potential, but I'm not quite sure we'll get all the way down there. I think we'll just set back to around 103 and then push higher. Gold is pushing higher, and there is further upside potential for gold. You can see it's almost reaching 161.8 projection of this correction here, and I think we will push higher also above that. But we are a bit stretched at the moment. You can see there's divergence on the RSI, indicating we are in exhaustive mood. But we can be in, or we can stay in an exhaustive mood for quite some time. And if we are looking at the longer-term picture on gold, and we will also do it on silver here in a minute. So here we have, and I showed this chart before, this is the monthly chart where it formed this cup and handle like pattern here. So what I try to do is I try to the difference up to the bottom of the candle to the bottom of the cup to the brim of the handle, and then projected it higher, and we can see it already surpassed the 61.8 of that, and then there it's indicating there's actually potential to 27.78, sorry, very close to cancelling its monthly RSI divergence if it does close monthly above 84.28. So really strong move there, but be careful. It is a bit stressed at the moment. Looking at silver, that really was on the move Friday and is continuing today, breaking above 33, reaching 138 projection. And if we also here looking at the monthly, we can see where it's actually heading at the moment. It is headed towards 35.40, and if it takes out that, well, then there's potential up to the, now we are, and that is interesting, could move towards the 40 level here over towards the end of the year, and there is currently no divergence on the RSI, so that's really key for copper that we are moving on to. Moving on to copper here. Copper seems to be bouncing, and I think we'll see a test of the 448.30 level, which is the 38.2 retracement. If it takes out that little spike up there at 450, then I think we'll see it pushing higher towards the 470 and 480, and especially if RSI moves back above 65, so close above that, that will support that. If it takes out the lows here from last year, 429 and 35, well, then we could see a further selling down to 420. Crude oil, well, sell off there Friday, once again testing this falling trend line there, but we get lower and lower prices, but RSI is still in a positive sentiment. It needs to close below 40 to change that. So there's still some indications that we could see a bounce back here towards 71.50, maybe even 72.5, but the 55 moving average will give it a little bit of a resistance, pushing it lower. Also the 100 declining there, and you can see the 200 also slightly declining now, and we are below the cloud. So I think we will actually see it's sliding lower in the coming weeks. And of course, almost similar picture on the Brent crude oil, sell off there Friday, but the RSI is still above 40. So keep an eye on what's going on. If it's moved back above 75.15, then we can see a correction up to around 77.5. US Treasury yield, here's the 10-year in a correction mode, still risk down to around 393, but if it takes out 414, well, then we are looking at 428, 430, and I'll add this horizontal line. We can see there around there, then there's some resistance up there, and especially if we get back above the 200 moving average, that could really give it some push. There's no divergence on the RSI, indicating that we are likely to see higher levels on the US 10-year Treasury yields. The 2-year sideways range trading, corrective phase, still risk down to 380 if it takes out the lows here from live for the past week or so at 388. Well, then we will see 380 corrective phase. If it takes out 4%, well, it could also take out the 406, which is a fairly strong resistance, but then there's potential higher. But the 100 moving average giving a little bit of a hard time there, but there's no divergence on the RSI, indicating we are likely to see higher levels in the coming weeks. All right, that's all for today. Thank you very much for listening. And just one note, update Tuesday, I'm traveling, so it will be quite late during the day in the European session if my flights are on time. See you again. Thank you very much.